Hello, welcome to the Roundhouse podcast with Paul Sulentrop of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. As always, thanks for your time. We appreciate you listening. Our guest today is Josh Eilert. Josh joins the Wichita State men's basketball staff as an assistant coach. He comes to Wichita from Utah, where he spent one season as assistant coach, closed that season as the interim head coach. Before that, Josh spent 17 seasons at West Virginia, during which the Mountaineers went to the 2010 Final Four. They made 5 Sweet 16 appearances under Coach Bob Huggins. Josh is a native Kansan. He is from Osborne, played at Cloud County Community College and Kansas State, also worked 2 years as a graduate assistant at K-State before going to West Virginia. Josh, tell us about coming to coach at Wichita State. What was appealing about this job move?
About everything. It's first and foremost, it's Coach Mills. The longer you work in this business, the more you understand you got to surround yourself with great people, and he is everything that you want to, as a leader, you want to learn from, grow from, and the type of person you want to be involved in each and every day. So that's first and foremost, but all the rest of the intangibles, like coming back home and representing your home state, that's just icing on the cake. So my family and I are really excited to be back and come back to our home state of Kansas. Of course, 3 of my children were all born and raised in West Virginia, so we had that short stint in Utah, coming from Utah, but the majority of the kids, or all of them, were born and raised there. But my wife and I are both from Kansas originally. My wife, Brandy, is from Riley, and I'm from Osborne, and we have pretty deep roots here with family, so we're excited to be, back in Wichita and back in the state of Kansas.
So you've been at Wichita State, I guess, a week or so. I saw you earlier today. You're out on the court already working with some of the Shocker big men. Give people an idea, what's the transition like? How do you kind of get up and running at a new job like this?
Well, this is a relationship business. So first and foremost, you got to, really start to develop those relationships with the guys. And everybody's new to everybody. This day and age in terms of college basketball and the roster turnover, that's no different here than anywhere else in the country. So typically 80-85% of your roster is turning over, and so right now it's we're developing the culture, setting the standards, and understanding what they're going to expect from us and what we need to expect from them. So we're starting to build those relationships, and it's come along well. So
you get hired at Wichita State, or during the process, do you immediately start looking at video of Paul Mills' teams? Does he send you a list of games, of plays? How do you kind of start figuring out, all right, here's how Paul Mills runs his offense and defenses?
I kind of understood, who he was in terms of his coaching tree and his, and he knew kind of who I was, in terms of my influence, being under Coach Huggins for 18 years or 17 years, so at West Virginia. So those people that I know he's very much involved with in terms of Scott Drew and being a part of that Scott Drew coaching tree. So I kind of understand how each and every one of them operate, to a certain degree. So yes, I wouldn't say I've dove in as deep as I probably need to in terms of what he does strategically, but right now it's boots are on the ground, just working one-on-one with guys and figuring out what they're capable of giving us, because as a good coach does, every coach can adapt to what he has on the floor each year. So right now we're trying to figure out and feel that out, what we're working with, and I'll watch his lead and learn from him and see where he goes with it.
So people always talk about moving over 18 inches on the seat from being an assistant to being a head coach. You've had 2 stints as an interim head coach. What did you learn during that time that's maybe helped you and moved your career along?
I think, those were invaluable experiences for me. Really 2 totally different experiences, and so challenging to take over, a program like University of Utah at the end of the season, where we felt like we had some momentum going, and it kind of just it was a shock to everybody in the program. So, but the year before, we kind of got a late start and had to build a roster late in July. and compete in the hardest league in the country, in the Big 12. And that was in itself one of the greatest challenges of my lifetime. So I didn't shy away from it, but it was a great experience. But probably the one thing I probably learned the most about that situation is how much you need to rely on good people. I kind of inherited the staff, but there's 2 or 3 of them that were really good for me. And I kind of learned, from a head coaching perspective, what you need out of an assistant coach, what you need out of a director of operations. So, that time as a head coach was invaluable to me, just to understand, what is expected, from those people that you count on every single day.
I guess I call this the Eric Spoelstra question. You spent 6 years as video coordinator at West Virginia, and that seems to be a growing popular pathway into coaching. How does that background help prepare you?
Well, I mean, the video, from 2000, even when I was a GA, 05 to 07, the video jobs have gotten a lot, easier. You can really go a lot further in depth. When I first got into this business, we were chasing down FedEx trucks trying to get VHS tapes, and it took an act of God to get a edit put together. But now it's all at your fingertips. But going back to the experience of doing that for all those years, I think I had 5-6 years as a video coordinator, and we started in the Big East. We transitioned to the Big 12. And all those, whether it be Jim Calhoun or Rick Pitino or, all those really, veteran coaches that are so good at their craft, I got to learn and dissect their offense. I got to learn and dissect their defense. And you put it under a microscope when you're the video coordinator. So that's a great foundation for guys in this business to start and learn and grow. And I can't think of a better opportunity to get into the business than being a video coordinator and really dissecting those the X's and O's.
Who was the Big East or Big 12 coach who you walked away thinking that team is always well prepared, they always do things that are difficult to deal with? Anybody just jump to mind as an example of somebody who was really, really good?
Yeah, I think even I'm not going to say a specific coach, but I pretty much learned over the course of the years, like sometimes the simplest coach, the guys that don't try to overcomplicate things, they're really good at knowing who they are. They're offensively or defensively. They're not going to put usually, they're not going to have 100 sets. And I've kind of learned that quickly. The Jim Boeheims of the world, the Rick Pittinos, they didn't have a complicated system. They just got really, really good at what they did. And I'll never forget learning that lesson as I kind of dissected those programs. So, it's as a transition from the Big East to the Big 12, then you got into dissecting Bill Self and some of those legends in this league. So it's been an amazing journey for me, and just happy to be here and understand who I am as a foundation. As a head, going from head coach to back to assistant. But I've got that strong foundation with the video coordinator and the director of operations and all those roles I played throughout my career.
Why did you get into coaching?
More so than anything, just the relationships. I spent a year in Seneca, Kansas, at Community National Bank, right out of college, with my marketing and finance degree out of K-State, and not that I have small town roots, and it was a good experience, but I learned quickly that wasn't my passion. And so I had to change things quick, and I'll always credit my wife for pushing me. It's like you're not happy, you're not yourself. And I always had that itch at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and my whole life I was excited to play the game of basketball. And the ball stops bouncing for everybody, especially from a competitive side of things. But I knew I could get involved and be a part of it and be a lot happier. And I did that as a GA at Kansas State, and I didn't know where it was going to take me, but here I am, 18 years later.
Who do you consider your coaching role models?
One of the guys I really look to, there's several in the business that have been, of course, Coach Huggins, he gave me the opportunity as a graduate assistant and kept me there at K-State after Jim Woolridge brought me on. So both those guys I certainly owe a debt of gratitude to. But as I move forward in the coaching profession, guys like Joe Mazzulla with the Boston Celtics. He was our point guard at West Virginia the first 3 years we were there, and some of the things that he has taught me, just picking his brain over the years has been invaluable, because he's really taken it to the next level in terms of transition into the new age basketball.
Interesting. I'd forgotten about Joe Mazzulla. Yeah, he was a West Virginia player. Do you have a position, an area of the game that you consider a specialty?
I've been asked that several times in my life. I think if you're going to look at both sides of the ball, I more look to the defensive side of things. And I think that has more to do with being the background of being a video coordinator. You're always dissecting their offense, trying to figure out what those things are, what their strengths are, and how you can mitigate some of their strengths and turn them into weaknesses. So first and foremost, when I think that question, it's always I gravitate towards the defensive end. And it might have something to do with the 16 years I spent with Bob Huggins. So those years were invaluable, and that influence was invaluable. So the defensive side of things is probably what I gravitate towards. And then when you break things down, I always seem to be working with the bigs and trying to develop those guys. And it's just it's a blessing to be a part of this program and be a part of moving forward.
Yeah, Bob Huggins, I think people would think defense and rebounding and toughness. How did he get that out of his teams? Why was he such a good defensive coach?
I think you got to have the relationship. You certainly, if you're going to coach guys that hard, you got to be able to put your arm around them, walk off that court, put your arm around them, and really connect with them on a deeper level. And he could certainly do that. It's a relationship game. I mean, you can only get push guys as far as you can have that relationship.
Did you ever meet Jerry West, who is, of course, a great West Virginia basketball player?
Yeah, I have an enormous amount of respect for the late Jerry West. He was in the program. We brought him back for Bob Huggins fantasy camp several times when we were at West Virginia, and he always came back. It seemed like for one game every year or so. So I got to meet him several times. His son Johnny West played for us at West Virginia, so. He always came back to see Johnny as well, and what an incredible young man, and what an incredible family.
You've touched on it a couple times. How do you approach the challenge of building a team under the transfer portal and NIL, all the changes of the last 4 or 5 years? What's how do you deal with all these changes?
It's kind of like adapt or perish. We used to put that in our weight room. You adapt or perish. I mean, you got to figure out the landscape, and the rules of the game are constantly changing off the floor itself. So you got to figure it out, and it's the arms race for resources in a lot of ways. You got to have the resources to be able to compete, and especially in the recruiting landscape. So I certainly. I'm excited about Wichita and the people here and the passion they have for the basketball program. So I think we'll be just fine there moving forward and trying to get the resources we need to compete. But that's where it starts, and then you got to have great leadership, and we do here with Coach Mills. So couldn't be more excited to get going and move forward.
Is there a basketball player, NBA guy, past, present, college player that you like to send video to your players and have them watch? This guy's a good example of playing defense or ball handling or just playing hard. What names jump out to you in that way?
Well, when you're talking to guys and you're developing guys' game, it's not necessarily one guy. You can, every guy's different. Every player's different. So sometimes you look at a player and say, I see some of this in him, and you want to develop a certain area of his game that you've seen, a guy have a lot of success in. But so I couldn't say one player in particular. If you're going to look at me and ask me who my player is, where every time I'm sitting there and my jaw drops and I'm in awe, it's the Joker. It's so he's the incredible what he can do with his size, out there on the floor, and every time I watch him, I'm in awe. So certainly a guy that I love, from an offensive perspective, like being able to play through size and pull that defense away from the basket has always been something that always intrigues me.
Nikola Jokic of the Nuggets is who you're referring to, in case you're not familiar with the Joker nickname. He would definitely be a great role model. Favorite memory from your playing days? High school, Cloud County, Kansas State? I'll open it up to any memory.
For my playing days, that's a
surely you had some big games with the Osborne Mustang or Osborne Bulldogs.
I was just talking to Dre out there on the floor, and he was at Barton, and so the first thing that comes to mind is I ran into my coach Kevin Muff that was at Cloud County here to track meet this past weekend. Got to catching up with him, and then Dre is from Barton. So I can remember when we beat Barton. They were number one in the country, and they came to Concordia and played, and that was a special moment for me. So I think some of those things between running into him on Saturday and getting to know Dre a little bit, that's the first one that comes to mind.
That would be a good one. I remember Barton County, they definitely had some powerhouse teams. Was Jerry Mullen the coach then, or was that post Jerry Mullen?
It could be. I'd have to look back and see who was coaching.
Who is the best opponent you have faced? Individual player been on the court with?
From a player perspective, I didn't play a lot at Kansas State. I got a lot of time watching there at the end of the bench, and you kind of figure out who you are. But that's the hard one. The way I look at it right now, I look at it as a coach, and I got a chance to compete against 4 guys that won the national championship as a head coach, and between Scott Drew and Bill Self and Rick Pitino and Virginia. So those opportunities for me, I don't think back as much of my playing days after being removed so many years. But right now, it's exciting to be a part of a college basketball landscape, even though it's changing so much. But it's still all about building those relationships and moving forward.
Okay, let's play Josh Eilert trivia. Against which team did you make your debut when you were a Wildcat at Kansas State?
That is a good question. I don't even know the answer to it.
A 102-68 win over Texas Pan American in 2002. You played 4 minutes, grabbed 3 rebounds, so that's a pretty good rebound rate right there.
I'll take that.
Yes, you can bring that up in rebounding drills. Okay, you earned a spot on the all-class 2-3A team from the Salina Journal in 1999 as a senior at Osborne. Can you name any of the other people on that team?
On my team?
On the all-class 2-3A team. You would have played against, looks like a kid from Smith Center who was pretty good. You played in the same league, the Mid-Continent League with.
Well, I tell you what, like being away for 18 years, some of these names have really been a struggle for me as I've got back. So I'm learning the names, and I'm running into more people and jogging so many of these memories up. So you're gonna have to remind me.
That's all right. That's all right. It was a long time ago. Brandon Homan was from Smith Center. Randy McGinnis from Beloit. Tyson Ratzliff, maybe he was the name that I recommended because I think he had a really good career at Tabor. He played at Hillsboro and Vernon Wiley at Belleville. So that was your all-class 2-3A team. 1999 from the Salina Journal. Do you have a book, a TV show, a podcast? What are you listening to or reading that you might recommend for people out there?
I think the book that I can reference that I've read just recently is Good to Great. It's you think about where you're at in life and try to figure out how do you get to that next level. And so many times you fall into just the day-to-day mediocrity, and you feel like you're just doing just enough, but there's always another level you can take it to, and whether it be the mastering your habits each and every day. But that book kind of stands out to me and has really made a lasting impact.
I had someone else on recently who recommended that book. That must be a worthwhile read. Josh Eilert, he is a new Wichita State men's basketball assistant coach. Josh, thanks you very much for your time.
Thank you, Paul.
Great insight as always. Thanks for listening to the Roundhouse podcast, courtesy of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. We encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can always find more Roundhouse content at GoShockers.com.
Martin, left wing to Mike Jones. 8 seconds left. Smithson out to Mike Jones. 25-footer. Good! He got it with 3 seconds left. Mike Jones from about 25 feet out hit another long jumper. 2 seconds showing on the clock. That may not be official, but Wichita State leads 66-65. Timeout, Kansas. 2 seconds to go. Wichita State 66, Kansas 65.